The Georgia Department of Community Affairs, DCA, administers a Housing Choice Voucher program, also known as Section 8, in 149 counties in Georgia, funded through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Welcome to the video presentation. In its simplest terms, the Housing Choice Voucher Rental Assistance Program pays all or a portion of an eligible family's rent in a suitable housing unit. The keys to you receiving this rental assistance are understanding how the Housing Choice Voucher works, what your responsibilities are, and finding suitable housing so you can make the most of this opportunity to rent a good home at a price you can afford. This video will outline general program issues within several topic segments. You can ask specific questions at the end of this video when you meet with one of our staff members to discuss your income, your household composition, and your housing options. Since you're here, you've met HUD's definition of a family, and your total household income falls within the acceptable limit for the number of people living in your household. Throughout this video presentation and your one-on-one session with one of our staff, you will learn that there are many keys to help you look for a place to live. There's a lot to learn, so pay close attention. Your road to home starts at the beginning, and that beginning is a complete understanding of the program requirements. During your one-on-one session, you will be asked to sign several documents. You must sign these documents in order to receive the subsidy. When you sign your name, you are stating that you understand the program and agree to follow the DCA policies and procedures. We will ask you to sign a briefing acknowledgement that shows you have received or have available to you every form or document we have talked about in this presentation. With all of this information to understand, feel free to jot down any questions you would like to ask at the end of the video. Understanding your voucher explains important deadlines. The Housing Choice Voucher is valid for a total period of 60 days from the date of issuance. You must submit a Request for Tenancy Approval Form, RFTA, and a copy of the lease within this 60-day period. Only one RFTA form may be submitted at a time, and no RFTA form will be accepted after the 60th day. DCA has implemented a minimum rent provision. Your total tenant payment must now be at least $50. If this provision impacts you, our staff will explain how this affects your rental assistance. The Housing Choice Voucher is the magical key to Housing Choice Voucher assistance. It is the key to beginning your journey on the road home. You will be asked to sign the voucher and you will be given a copy. It is important for you to read all the documents given to you today. It is critical for you to read your voucher carefully. A prospective landlord may even ask to see a copy of the voucher to make sure you are a program participant. Along with the privilege of receiving Housing Choice Voucher assistance, there are great responsibilities. You may be denied assistance or your assistance terminated if certain policies and procedures are not followed. Grounds for denial or termination of assistance is a long document explaining what you must do to remain an eligible participant. Let's review this form now, and remember, when a family is required to provide notice to DCA, that notice must be in writing. DCA may deny assistance for an applicant or terminate assistance for a participant on any of the following grounds: failure to supply any information, including any certification, release, or other documentation that DCA considers necessary to verify citizenship or eligible immigration status, or for use in an annual or interim examination of family income and composition. Failure to provide documentation of Social Security numbers and to sign and submit consent forms for obtaining information, including spouse unless legally separated or divorced. Failure to supply any information requested by DCA to verify that the family is living in the unit or information related to the family's absence from the unit. Failure to give DCA a copy of any notices from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, regarding family income, earnings, wages, or unemployment compensation. Failure to supply any information requested for use in a regularly scheduled reexamination or interim reexamination of family income and composition. Porting families may be terminated for family action or inaction. Failure to promptly notify DCA and the landlord in writing when a family member or head of household will be away from the unit for more than 30 calendar days. The family or head of household may be absent from the unit for up to 180 consecutive days with DCA's written approval. Failure to notify DCA in writing within 30 business days of the birth, adoption, or court-awarded custody of a child. Failure to request and obtain prior written approval from DCA and the landlord to add any other person or persons as an occupant of the unit except for the birth, adoption, or court-awarded custody of a child. Approval to add a member to the household will be denied if the individual is ineligible for assistance from DCA due to a debt, fraud, or other reason. Persons who reside in the unit more than 50% of the time or have established residency are considered occupants. Failure to notify DCA in writing within 14 business days if a household member no longer lives in the unit. Failure to report any changes in the source of household income to DCA in writing within 10 business days of the effective date of the change, such as the first day of employment, the date a pay increase goes into effect, etc., not the date on which the income is received. Sources of income include, but are not limited to, wages, including spouse, government benefits such as Social Security, SSI, TANF, unemployment benefits, pensions, child support, and continuous contributions from friends and family. Failure to properly report any other changes, such as marriage, divorce, separation, etc., that DCA may consider relevant or that affect family composition or income. Failure to comply with the lease. Before moving out of the unit or terminating the lease, the family must provide DCA with a copy of written notice given to the landlord, which must be in accordance with the terms of the lease. The initial lease term must be for a minimum of 1 year. Failure to use the assisted unit for residence by the family. The unit must be the family's only residence. Failure to allow DCA to inspect the unit at reasonable times and after reasonable notice. If the head of household misses the appointment, one final appointment will be scheduled. If the family misses the final appointment, DCA will terminate assistance for abuse. Failure to pay utility bills and supply and maintain any appliances that the owner is not required to supply under the lease. All tenant-paid utilities must remain continuously connected. Participants with a first documented instance of utility disconnection will be required to have the utility reconnected within 24 hours or face rental assistance termination. Failure to reimburse landlord for any damages, other than damage from ordinary wear and tear, to occupied unit or premises caused by household members or guests during the lease term or when vacating the unit. Failure to correct tenant-caused, life-threatening HQS violations within 24 hours and other tenant-caused HQS violations within the required time period. Failure to pay rent to the landlord on the first day of the month and report any additional charges by the landlord in writing to DCA. It is illegal for a landlord to charge additional amounts for rent or any other item not specified in the lease which have not been specifically approved by DCA. Failure to give DCA a copy of any owner eviction notice. If evicted for serious or repeated lease violations, the family will be ineligible for continued rental assistance. The family, including each household member, must not own or have any interest in the unit. This includes, but is not limited to, rent-to-own agreements, installment sales contracts, or any other arrangement for a family member to buy the unit, sublease or sublet the unit, assign the lease, or transfer the unit. Receive Housing Choice Voucher (HCV) assistance while receiving another housing subsidy for the same unit or a different unit under any other federal, state, or local housing assistance program. Be related to the owner in any of the following ways: parent, child, grandparent, grandchild, sister or brother, unless the family includes a member with a disability and the unit accommodates the disability. Be evicted from federally assisted housing for a serious violation of the lease, including drug-related criminal activity within the last 5 years. Be subject to a permanent or lifetime registration as a sex offender. HCV assistance for participants or household members erroneously admitted will be terminated. ODCA or have committed past abuse for unreported income. Be a felon convicted of illegal drug or violent criminal activity or other criminal act that threatens the health and safety of other residents. The family, including each household member or guest, must not commit any serious or repeated violation of the lease, commit fraud, bribery, or any other corrupt or criminal act in connection with the Housing Choice Voucher program, participate in illegal drug or violent criminal activity while receiving assistance from DCA, be convicted of the manufacture or production of methamphetamines on federally assisted housing property, participate in drug use or alcohol abuse that adversely affects the health or safety or peaceful enjoyment of the premises of other residents while receiving assistance from DCA, engaging in or threatening abusive or violent behavior towards DCA personnel, owing money to DCA or another housing agency in connection with HCV or public housing programs, failure to cooperate with DCA staff, DCA regional compliance officers, and other state and federal personnel that are assigned special case reviews. Your signature on the grounds for denial or termination of assistance form will indicate your understanding that, as head of household, it is your sole responsibility to provide true and complete information on yourself and all household members, now or in the future, and failure to do so may lead to the termination of your assistance. You are responsible for all the actions of all household members and guests. Additionally, you understand that false statements or information are punishable under federal and/or state law, and DCA will pursue accordingly. Under federal law, this could result in a fine up to $10,000 and/or imprisonment for up to 5 years. Be honest and open throughout the process, and always follow the rules. Unfortunately, during the past year, more than 1,000 vouchers have been terminated due to program violations. Please make sure that all changes in who lives with you, regardless of the change, are reported to DCA in writing. No one can be added to your household without prior approval. Never engage in side payments. Side payments are additional monies made to the landlord that have not been authorized by DCA. They are illegal and may result in your termination from the program. And finally, you must meet all deadlines. Many steps in the process are time sensitive. If you are porting into DCA, keep in mind that changes may require communication with your original housing authority. If you feel that DCA's actions aren't accurate or just, you have the right to dispute any action taken by DCA regarding your subsidy. If you aren't eligible for assistance in your current home or don't want to stay there, you do have choices. There are many ways to find suitable housing. Moving with Continued Rental Assistance explains where you can and cannot seek housing. This document clarifies current HUD regulations and DCA policies in regards to areas you may seek housing. If you are considering transferring your subsidy outside of this county or are exercising your rights to portability, please tell our staff at the beginning of your one-on-one session. They will help you interpret current policies and how this impacts your housing choices. If you're looking for houses, you should decide where you would like to live based on where you work, where your friends and relatives live, public transportation routes, the location and quality of schools, and other family needs. By narrowing the area where you look for housing, you will have more success in locating decent, safe, sanitary housing. We can help you find suitable housing. Landlords interested in providing specific units on this program list properties on our website, dca.ga.gov, under the Resources tab and by clicking on Georgia Housing Search. You can also access the Housing Search tool by going directly to georgiahousingsearch.org. You will find the dca.ga.gov site helpful on other aspects of the program as well. You should also use other resources that you would normally use to seek housing: newspaper ads, real estate agents, apartment managers, for rent signs at supermarkets and laundromats. Social service agencies are also good places to start your housing search. You have certain rights when searching for a home. The Fair Housing booklet describes that housing discrimination is against the law. The booklet includes a form you can use to file a complaint with HUD if you feel you have been discriminated against. The Reasonable Accommodation Fact Sheet for applicants and participants advises that DCA will provide specific accommodations in order for a person with a disability to fully utilize our programs and services. A reasonable accommodation can be a change, exception, or adjustment to a rule, policy, practice, or service. For example, a person with a disability may request approval for a live-in aid in the household. Requests for accommodations must be assessed on a case-by-case basis. The HCV Rental Assistance Program is designed to help families get affordable housing that is decent, safe, and clean. If your unit does not meet HUD guidelines for housing quality standards, you won't get assistance. Reading A Good Place to Live will let you know how our inspectors decide what housing is acceptable. Although there are a few differences and requirements for single-family homes, multifamily housing, apartments and mobile homes, many of these housing types can be considered suitable housing. Smoke detectors are required in all units and on all levels within the unit. Most of the issues the inspector will consider are in the booklet. In 1978, lead-based paint was banned. You should consider lead-based paint in units built before 1978 as a possible risk to your family, particularly if you have a child under the age of 6. Read Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home to learn more about these risks. Remember that finding suitable housing, in other words, housing that will pass HUD's housing quality standards, is the essential key to unlocking your success and receiving rental assistance. Don't forget, the voucher expires after 60 days. When looking for a home, find one that will meet housing quality standards. If the home doesn't meet standards and the landlord can't make repairs before your voucher expires, you should consider other housing options. In your one-on-one session, we will discuss the worksheet which calculates a figure using the payment standard based on your household composition. Other considerations in the calculations of your total payment include the utility cost. The utility allowance chart lists the dollar figure DCA uses for various types of utilities. For example, if you select a 2-bedroom single-family dwelling with electric heating, This chart will help you determine the cost. In your one-on-one session, we will help you calculate the price range of housing you should search for and how that will affect your portion of the rent. Vouchers, How Much Will I Pay, is a helpful tool in determining these amounts. We've covered a lot so far. Let's recap what we've done. You must understand how the program works and sign various documents to that effect in order to receive your voucher. You must understand how your subsidy is calculated. You must understand what your responsibilities are in order to become eligible and then remain eligible for the program. You must understand what your choices are in order to find suitable housing. You must realize that the clock is ticking and your voucher expires in 60 days. Whether you've decided to stay in your current home or you've gone out and found a new one, DCA must inspect and approve it. Approving the unit not only means it must meet housing quality standards, but also other HUD guidelines which restrict the amount a unit can rent for. You cannot pay any more than 40% of your adjusted income towards rent and utilities. The price of the unit must also meet comparability, what we call rent reasonableness. More simply put, DCA cannot subsidize a unit that rents for more than another comparable or similar unit in the same area. After taking all these issues into consideration, you are ready to select a unit for us to come and inspect. The RFTA must be completed and submitted to DCA along with the proposed lease to schedule an appointment for an inspection for a unit you select. The RFTA and the lease may be mailed, hand-delivered, or faxed to our office. Since the RFTA must be signed, you can't phone in the information. The RFTA and the lease help DCA determine whether the home can be placed on our program and to notify the parties that an inspection has been scheduled. The form must be filled out completely. Selecting a suitable unit and getting it inspected is another important key to getting rental assistance. The type of utilities in the unit, the year it was built, the amount of rent, and the name and address of the prospective landlord are just a few of the details we must know before scheduling the inspection. The tenant history report is used to show your prospective landlord your previous experience to help him decide if he wishes to accept you as a tenant. This is a two-way street. You and your landlord must agree to be in a business relationship. One of our inspectors will schedule a time period to meet with you and your landlord at the prospective home at the next available day. Our inspectors, currently called family housing counselors, schedule inspections from 1 to 2 weeks in advance from the time you submit your RFTA form and lease. You will receive an appointment letter telling you and your prospective landlord the date and time frame in which a FHC or inspector will arrive at the home to inspect it. If you aren't at the home within this time frame, it counts as a missed appointment. Missing scheduled appointments may be a reason for denial of assistance. The missed appointment delays your attempts to get housing assistance since we would then have to reschedule the appointment. It is a good idea to check with your landlord to make sure he will be available at the inspection or will provide some means of gaining access to the unit on the day and time frame of the scheduled appointment. Not being able to get into the home is just another delay in us inspecting the unit and getting your rental assistance started. After the inspection, you and your landlord will be told if any repairs or changes are needed. Any deficiencies or any inconclusive item will keep the unit from passing inspection and will prevent you from receiving assistance in this unit. If the unit passes, the FHC will proceed with more paperwork to place the unit under contract. If the unit fails or is inconclusive, these problems must be fixed and DCA notified when they have been corrected. After notification, another appointment will be scheduled to inspect the home. You must again coordinate with the landlord to make sure the inspector can gain access to the unit at the appointment time. Many times, families and landlords can get frustrated when working through the proper channels to get the home they want inspected as quickly as possible. So let's review the process again. The most essential key to receiving rental assistance is finding suitable housing. You must complete in its entirety the RFTA form and get the landlord's signature on the form. You must also provide a copy of the proposed lease. Make sure the tenant history report is also completed. You must get this form into our office as soon as you can. You must make arrangements with your landlord to gain access to the home, and you must be present during the date and time listed on the appointment letter. The family housing counselor will inspect the home and determine if there are any deficiencies that need repair. If the home does not pass inspection, you and the landlord must notify DCA that the items that need repair have been fixed. When the home does pass, the family housing counselor will place the unit under contract, which involves additional paperwork. If the unit passes, the family housing counselor will advise you and your landlord that your family can move in. The family housing counselor will prepare the request for tenancy approval document, and signatures of both the landlord and the tenant are required. A lease must be executed between you and the landlord. A housing assistance payment contract is executed between the landlord and DCA. The FHC may require other documents. Your prospective landlord may require a deposit. This deposit can be no more than the amount he would charge for tenants not on the Housing Choice Voucher program. The lease will spell out the total amount of the rent, what portion of the rent the family is responsible for, what portion DCA is responsible for, the security deposit, the terms for renewing the lease, and the terms under which the rent can be raised. Remember, the lease is between you and the landlord. DCA cannot override any landlord rights, and you will be subject to the laws of the county where you live. The magistrate of the county will determine lease violations when enforcing any eviction or lease disputes. Although DCA is not directly involved in the enforcement of the lease, keep in mind that violation of the lease can be a reason for termination of your rental assistance. So it's very important to know the specifics of your lease and to follow the rules. When talking to prospective landlords that have not participated in an HCV tenant-based program, ask them to talk to a DCA administrator about how the program works, what the HAP contract means, and how DCA is involved in the lease itself. DCA is better equipped to explain the program rules from the landlord point of view. HUD requires that your family is recertified and your subsidized home is re-inspected. You may remain on the program as long as you are eligible, your home meets housing quality standards, and you don't violate any DCA policies or procedures. That's a general briefing on how the HCV Rental Assistance Program works, what your responsibilities are, and how you may find suitable housing. Remember, report any required changes in writing to your FHC. DCA staff will now conduct a one-on-one session with you. We will answer any specific questions pertaining to your family's income and housing needs. This is just the beginning of the partnership. Throughout the time you are receiving rental assistance, you are required to follow all program requirements. Please refer to the grounds for denial or termination of assistance and maintain control over your household and its members. Always inform DCA in writing of any changes in income or family composition. Your home must be inspected and your eligibility for participation must be recertified. You may remain on the program as long as you are eligible and you do not violate any policies. Always remember that the head of household is responsible for all persons living in the home. The home should be maintained, safe, and clean. Let's all do our part to make it an effective partnership where your family has a safe and happy home.